Welcome to Wikipedipodcast, the podcast where I read a Wikipedia article. Yep, that's it. Let's get started. The neck is the part of the body on many vertebrates that connects the head with the torso and provides the mobility and movements of the head. The structures of the human neck are anatomically grouped into 4 compartments: vertebral, visceral, and 2 vascular compartments. Within these compartments, the neck houses the cervical vertebrae and the cervical part of the spinal cord, upper parts of the respiratory and digestive tracts, endocrine glands, nerves, arteries, and veins. Muscles of the neck are described separately from the compartments. They bound the neck triangles. I guess we'll find out what neck triangles are. In anatomy, the neck is also called by its Latin names, cervix or column. Although when used alone in context, the word cervix more often refers to the uterine cervix, the neck of the uterus. Anyways, thus the adjective cervical may refer either to the neck, as in cervical vertebrae or cervical lymph nodes, or to the uterine cervix, as in cervical cap or cervical cancer. Oh, I don't like the sound of that. Cervical cancer. That's bad. Okay, structure. Compartments. Neck structures are distributed within 4 compartments. Vertebral compartment contains the cervical vertebrae with cartilaginous discs between each vertebral body. The alignment of the vertebrae defines the shape of the human neck. As the vertebrae bound the spinal canal, the cervical portion of the spinal cord is also found within the neck. Fuck, this is such a hard... Why did I pick this? There's so many big words and so many medical words that are... Anyways, let's keep going. Let's do this. Let's knock it out. Visceral compartment accommodates the trachea, larynx, pharynx, thyroid, and parathyroid glands. Well, that's easy. Vascular compartment is paired and consists of the 2 carotid sheaths found on each side of the trachea. Each carotid sheath contains the vagus nerve, common carotid artery, and internal jugular vein. Besides the listed structures, the neck contains cervical lymph nodes which surround the blood vessels. Cool. It's going super well, guys. It's great. All right, muscles and triangles. I want to hear all about this. Muscles of the neck attached to the skull, hyoid bone, clavicles, and the sternum. They bound the 2 major neck triangles, anterior and posterior. Anterior triangle is defined by the anterior border of the sternocleidomastoid muscle, inferior edge of the mandible, and the midline of the neck. It contains the styloid, digastric, myloid. Fuck me. Okay, there's like 6 more of these things. Genioid, amoid, sternoid, thyroid, and sternothyroid muscles. Whew, okay, these muscles are grouped as the suprahyoid and infrahyoid muscles, depending if they are located superiorly or inferiorly to the hyoid bone. The suprahyoid muscle, stylohyoid, digastric, myloid, genioid. I mushed it up. Doesn't matter. I pronounced it all wrong anyways. Elevate the hyoid bone, while infrahyoid muscles... Oh, fuck, I'm not going to say all of them. Depress it. Acting synchronously, both groups facilitate speech and swallowing. Wow, that was a lot just to say it. That's how you talk and swallow. Great. Okay, so that was the anterior triangle. The posterior triangle is bordered by the posterior border of the sternocleidomastoid muscle, anterior border of the trapezius muscle, and the superior edge of the middle third of the clavicle. This triangle this triangle contains the sternocleidomastoid, trapezius, splenius capitis, levator scapulae, omohyoid, anterior, middle, and posterior scalene muscles. Jesus Christ, why did I fucking do this to myself? All right, next, nerve supply. Sensation to the front areas of the neck comes from the roots of the spinal nerve, C2 through C4, and at the back of the neck from the roots of C4 to C5. In addition to nerves coming from and within the human spine, the accessory nerve and vagus nerve travel down the neck. On to blood supply and vessels. Arteries which supply the neck are common carotid. Arteries which supply the neck are common carotid. Arteries which supply the neck are common carotid arteries, which bifurcate into internal carotid artery, external. Oh, what is the format of this? An external carotid artery. That's weird. Okay, anyways, surface anatomy. What we all want to hear about. The thyroid cartilage of the larynx forms a bulge in the midline of the neck called the Adam's apple. The Adam's apple is usually more prominent in men. Inferior to the Adam's apple is the cricoid cartilage. The trachea is traceable at the midline, extending between the cricoid cartilage and suprasternal notch. I pause so much with these words. I'm like, what is it? No, in my brain, it's just, what's happening? Did I even see all those letters correctly? From a lateral aspect, this Dirnomastoid muscle is the most striking mark. It separates the anterior triangle of the neck from the posterior. The upper part of the anterior triangle contains the submandibular glands, which lie just below the posterior half of the mandible. The line of the common and external carotid arteries can be marked by joining the sternoclavicular articulation to the angle of the jaw. Necklines can appear at any age of adulthood as a result of sun damage, for example, or of aging, where skin loses its elasticity and can wrinkle. The 11th cranial nerve, or spinal accessory nerve, corresponds to a line drawn from a point midway between the angle of the jaw and the mastoid process to the middle of the posterior border of the sternomastoid muscle, and thence across the posterior triangle to the deep surface of the trapezius. The external jugular vein can usually be seen through the skin. It runs in a line drawn from the angle of the jaw to the middle of the clavicle. And close to it are some small lymphatic glands. The anterior jugular vein is smaller and runs down about half an inch from the middle line of the neck. The clavicle or collarbone forms the lower limit of the neck, and laterally the outward slope of the neck to the shoulder is caused by the trapezius muscle. I'm going to cut that and this drink. Function. Muscles and movement. The neck supports the weight of the head and protects the nerves that carry sensory and motor information from the brain down to the rest of the body. In addition, the neck is highly flexible and allows the head to turn and flex in all directions. I like how they included that sort of thing. It's like, hey, what does the neck do? Like, does it... I mean, I'm assuming you know if you're a human. I mean, maybe you're a snail reading this. Anyways. Neck pain. Clinical significance. Disorders of the neck are a common source of pain. The neck has a great deal of functionality, but is also subject to a lot of stress. Common sources of neck pain and related pain syndrome, such as pain that radiates down the arm, include and are strictly limited to whiplash, strained muscle, or Wait, what? Whiplash, strained a muscle, or another soft tissue injury. Okay, that makes more sense. Cervical herniated disc, cervical spinal stenosis, osteoarthritis, vascular sources of pain, like arterial dissections or internal jugular vein thrombosis, and cervical adenitis. Other animals other than humans. Okay, great. I love animals. The neck appears in some of the earliest tetrapod fossils, and the functionality provided has led to its being retained in all land vertebrates as well as marine adapted tetrapods such as turtles, seals, and penguins. Some degree of flexibility is restrained even where the outside physical manifestation has been secondarily lost, as in whales and porpoises. A morphologically functioning neck also appears among insects. Its absence in fish and aquatic arthropods is notable, as many life stations similar to a terrestrial or tetrapod counterpart or could otherwise make use of the added flexibility. Okay. The word neck is sometimes used as a convenience to refer to the region behind the head in some snails, gastropod mollusks, even though there is no clear distinction between this area, the head area, and the rest of the body. Well, there we go. Quick and dirty, especially when we're talking about necks. Like, subscribe, all that random shit. Leave a comment. Have a garbage day.